New questions about whether Trump will be gagged. Legal experts are weighing in. They say that the former president can't stop talking about his indictment. But once he's arraigned, they call it extremely likely that he'll have to be quiet. People are asking about the judge where this case is being assigned. Manhattan DA office told them that there's likely going to be a gag order. The acting Supreme Court justice is named Juan Merchan, who is expected to arraign Trump on Tuesday, is likely to put conditions on his release. One of those is going to be a gag order, is what they say. Most likely. We don't know whether that's going to happen or not. Restricting Trump from discussing the case. If Trump violates it by speaking about the litigation, he could face consequences. Trump, of course, is talking about this. He posted on Truth Social. This person communicating about this is named Duncan Levin. He's a former federal prosecutor. If you speak out about it, it could bring in additional criminal charges. Criminal contempt of court could be punished again. Levin said, I think it's not only a possibility, but it's extremely likely that there will be a gag order in this case. Meaning, not only are they prosecuting a former president, they're also prosecuting a current presidential candidate. And they're telling him that he can't talk about this case. They're going to prosecute him and tie his hands behind his back, and he can't even speak about it. This person called Levin represented many others, Harvey Weinstein, Anna Sorkin, says gag orders are very common, especially where there's enormous pretrial publicity. Trump's spokesman didn't comment about this. Hard to imagine a presidential candidate not speaking about this case at one of his rallies. He's already been posting about it in fundraising emails, making memorabilia about it. And as soon as his mugshot comes out, it should be all over his page as well. Trump said the case is a witch hunt. Of course it is. His lawyer, Joe Tacopina, said that Trump was initially shocked by news of the indictment, but he's ready to be combative in defending himself. A code of professional conduct precludes lawyers from out-of-court statements about pending litigation meant to sway a jury pool. But the judge may issue a gag order on lawyers from both sides along with Trump. So they'll prosecute him in the dark of night under closed doors, behind closed doors, in secret. Because this is how they cheat. They want to take him off the board. And they don't want him to even be able to talk about it. It's some of the most cowardly politics you've ever seen, but that's the era that we're entering. Levin said Trump will be very limited about what he's able to say if there is a gag order. Says this is a criminal case now, so the rules have changed. Another former attorney general, Jeff Modisette, said he also expected the judge could narrowly craft a gag order that could survive an appeal. He added that Trump's status as a presidential candidate, kind of complicates First Amendment questions, no kidding. Says I could see where in a case like this, it's based upon statements that a judge could issue a gag order. Theoretically, a litigant could be thrown in jail. Levin said Merchan, the judge assigned to the case, is an absolute no-nonsense judge, will keep very tight control of the proceedings. Any extrajudicial statements by Trump are not going to be looked at kindly by this judge. If the judge finds that he's crossed the line, you better believe the judge is going to do something about it. Trump has been critical about other judges, people calling him a racist, but that's old news. So we're asking what Trump's lawyers are saying about this, and some people were on the air. One of Trump's lawyers is named Alina Abba, and she was asked about this indictment. Of course, she's very close to Trump, and here is what she said about it on Newsmax.
Or any media center, which is, by the way, in its my understanding from, frankly, the New York Times or any media center, which is, by the way, in itself unheard of. Normally, there would be communications with the DA. They'd be coordinating with our criminal team that is handling this. And we've had radio silence. And it's sad when the legal team is not working in conjunction with the DA to do this peacefully and do this accurately. So what's happening, my understanding is that they have a certain set of facts, obviously, that came from Michael Cohen. I'll leave that as it may. And they found ways to what I would refer to as stack misdemeanors, which is the exact opposite of what woke DA Bragg has been doing, right? So they'll take a misdemeanor and they can make it a felony by stacking it. Let's say there were 5 checks. So maybe they take, each check and make that an individual count. You know, there's ways to manipulate. Right. I have not seen the indictment. I don't know what it says, but I can tell you that just by the number I've heard, this is a clear case of political selective prosecution, persecution, and frankly, election interference. And so I'm looking to see the indictment before I speak to that. But I can tell you just by the number and by the amount of witnesses that we know did go in on this, some multiple times. I'm not sure how broad the scope could possibly be. It doesn't sound like it could be that broad.
We will likely learn a lot more next Tuesday.
Yes.
Well, we're going to learn all of everything next Tuesday. The indictment should be unsealed at that moment. But it does sound like they are stacking the charges, that there is a number of felonies. And I think each one of the felonies has to be connected to some sort of intent that is to commit another crime, right? Whatever that happens to be. And so we're thinking that is to conceal evidence from the FEC, to run for president, you know, some sort of a major federal level felony offense, that the execution of this deal, the concealment of the business records, was for the effect of creating a bigger fraud. That's what extends the statute of limitations out. But then we're asking ourselves how each one of those 34 different potential indictment charges plays in. Benny Johnson grabbed this clip, says that Trump's defense lawyer had a heated reaction to the Trump indictment. Says today the rule of law in America died. Said there is no crime, it's election interference. Let's see what he said.
Been more angry about a charge because today the rule of law in the United States of America died.
It's dead.
It's dead. And it's something that I never thought I'd see. I have goosebumps even saying it because I don't feel good about saying it. You know, when you stretch the law to get someone you don't like, or as a political opponent in this case, it's very hard to ever get that law to come back to its original shape.
You saw the ad
the
of Alvin Bragg when he was running. What does that tell you about equal justice and application of our laws in this country?
Yeah, that was his first priority. I mean, he didn't have any information, any evidence. But, you know, again, that was Nazi Germany. That was Soviet Union. That was Communist China, where you pick the target, the person you don't like, the political opponent, and then you find the crime. It's not that way in the United States. It never was that way in the United States of America. It's not supposed to be that way. And when we start doing that, we're no better than those other horrific, you know, dictatorships and governments that abused rule of law. America always had the justice system to protect our citizens. Whether they were popular citizens or unpopular citizens, they always had the justice system. Now, today's proof that you could actually pick a target and then try and find a crime, even a crime that's not a crime, because there is no crime here. So I'm telling you, there is no crime. I know the facts, I know the law, and I really want to see where this is going to go.
We're hearing that the president may be arraigned Tuesday. Has that been arranged?
It's not finalized. We are discussing with them. You know, obviously, there's a group called the Secret Service that's involved now. I mean, this is going to be something
crazy.
We've never seen the likes of.
No,
before.
we've never seen that.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
never happened in our country before. Everybody understands that, right?
The president's never been indicted, and as
a former president, even
a former president, and to do, I've heard this. You don't bring a case like this against a former president on a petty allegation, on a completely legal civil transaction with attorneys, unless you have the goods, unless you have something substantial. I mean, to go to the extreme of bringing down a former president, trying to indict a former president, is something that, you know, you have to have like a video of him committing a crime, not some cobbling together a couple of nonsense allegations.
Yeah, it is a cobbled together case, and it is mostly nonsense. I mean, everybody else has declined to charge this. This is being brought by political hacks. We've covered them at length here. Not only is it Alvin Bragg, but it's also the Attorney General of the same state, Tishy Latish James, the tishiest of all the tishes, who was also running and campaigning on prosecuting Trump. It's the entire state that has been behind this. If you think that they are just done, you know, like I said, they're not just coming for Trump and calling it a day. Stu Peters, at Real Stu Peters on Twitter, grab this one for us, says the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI coloring book experts are looking to criminalize even more Trump voters. They're not stopping with the J6ers. They're not stopping with Donald Trump. They wanted to go get guys like Sebastian Gorka and like Sean Hannity. If they could have ran them into this whole J6 Inquisition, they would have done it. But here's what Stu Peters grabbed for us. This is what these weirdos are talking about over on MSNBC. This is just the beginning.
On the national scale, I am very concerned that former President Trump has abandoned all moderation in his rhetoric, in his overheated rhetoric. What he is essentially doing in talking to his base, those who, as John put it, are still under his spell, is basically take up arms against our government, state and local. And particularly after January 6th, Mr. Trump ought to know the consequences of this kind of rhetoric. You know, he will swear that I did not intend violence by my rhetoric, but there's a point where you do intend the consequences of your actions. And we've seen this with January 6th. I'm very concerned that this could be a repeat of that. I know that the Department of Homeland Security right now, as we speak, through its Intelligence and Analysis Directorate, is closely monitoring social media, all of its sources, just as is the NYPD and the FBI, looking for potential demonstrations that could turn violent on a national level, whether it's here in New York or Mar-a-Lago or any place else. And I think they need to be vigilant right now, given the former president's very overheated rhetoric.
Secretary.
DHS, others monitoring us closely. Shout out to the feds out there. Hey, you dorks.